Hello there, everyone, and welcome to BEA's Tech Time Live. I'm Rob Rivera. I'm a member of the technical team. And with us today, my apologies, with us today is Jake DiBattista. He's going to be moderating the chat, and you can ask questions at any time. He's a member of our tech team, a very experienced guy. And today we're going to be talking about the MICROSCAN T. It comes in the 1, the 2. We're going to get into all that, but welcome, and let's get into the MICROSCAN. So you will have a MICROSCAN kit, and it comes in a couple different ways. We're going to cover the product itself, which here's a kit, the box that it comes in, and the main component of the MICROSCAN T is the hub. The hub is the brains of the unit. And obviously everything links to the brain, to the hub, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Power is kind of a big deal. If you order it in a MICROSCAN T1 or 2 with a U, universal, you will get a power supply, this BEA power supply, if ordered in the universal, and you will get a key switch. I'm sorry, a on-off hold-open switch. My apologies. On-off, hold up, and switch. So these two items come in the universal kit. So if you have an operator like the one I'm installing it on the Record 8100, it has been deemed by the technical department for BEA the power is satisfactory for the MICROSCAN T. So we have a list of all the operators that have been approved power. So if you want to know, you can always contact the BEA technical team to get which power supply on which operator is approved and which one we would recommend the MICROSCAN T power supply. So that being said, you have also obviously the sensor heads, and let's open and look at these a little bit. I'm going to show you these heads are handed. You can see the small little arrow. This one says write module. So this is one way. On the box itself, it lists it as a write. And on the corner, there's also an etched in here, a little R. Hopefully, I think you can see that at that angle. So there's 3 ways of checking. These are handed. The way we hand them is this sensor head here is in the top left, so it's a left hand. You can see the small red arrows pointing to the hinge side, and that's what it says, to the hinge side. So that's the handing on these heads that also come with the kit. On a 1T, you get 2 sensors, one for the swing side and one for the approach side. It is a system. You have to use both sensors in this system to have it fully functional. The other thing that comes in the kit is a standoff. Now, the standoff is if you had a panic bar, you could mount this right where the sensor is and put the sensor on top of this so it looks over the panic bar. Because lasers are so perfect, they could see the panic bar and think it's the floor. So you want to utilize these if you have panic bars. We also make, for those of you who may be installing on glass storefront doors, the narrow style doors. They have such a narrow style here. We make this kit that puts it over. These are great because it'll actually put it in its exact place, where it needs to be at the angle that it needs to be. And we'll get into that a little bit going forward. One other thing, if you do not have the U with the power supply and the key switch, you will have no key switch, so you have to use I'm sorry, not the key switch, the on-off hold-open switch, my apologies. You will have to have the jumper that comes with it. This jumper goes in the on-off hold-open switch, and you'll just simply tie the red and the black together, safe off the white, and use the on-off hold-open switch from the operator. In this case, this Record has a smart on-off hold-open switch, has some programming in it, so you might want to consider that on some of the operators. So the other things that come in here is a group of harnesses, And the harnesses are, as mentioned, on the hub. We have, you will get a power harness to plug into your control to pull power off your control if you have approved power. You'll have a door control harness A. For any operator that has two controls that have a sync cable between them, you will just use door control A, essentially. The sync cable will pass. Now, there are a few exceptions to that. The Record 8100, the stall circuit is single on each one. So you might want to consider contacting BEA Technical for questions on that. If you have old systems where you have two controls and you cannot interface the two controls before the day when we did that, you have door control A and door control B, so we can isolate each operator for you. Door A is the sensor for a single door. Door B would be if you had a pair of doors. Door A would be one door, door B would be the other. Then you have motion 1 and motion 2, and of course the systems harness. Motion 1 and motion 2 would be if I was putting a motion sensor on here for just a single acting grocery store, for example, or Home Depot, where you exit and there's no re-entry, a one-way door. If you have two-way traffic, two-way door, then you would utilize motion 1 and motion 2. The systems harness we are going to get into actually right now, since I've explained pretty much everything. There's one other thing I want to go through real quick, and that's the mounting template. You get a mounting template. This is extremely important. To give you a kind of a good, you have lines here and you have recommendations for the edge of the door, most butt hung hinges, most center pivoted. You can move it in and out. These are just guides. It's not a rule. You don't have to follow them, but it is a guide. These are essentially here to help you on your installation to get it straight, because that is one thing that is critical on this sensor. It wants to be placed in a certain point. So if you fold this on the line, and then you, of course, when installing, you're going to move this up and down on these lines here. That's also going to assist you to keep, this is a right, so left is what I want. You want the sensor to be in a specific angle. It's looking for the angle of the door cord, essentially, to come down directly at 90 degrees to the ground. That's essentially what it's looking for. This is very important. Don't underestimate this. As long as you install it with this template, you'll have no problems. Now, we do obviously have a user guide inside here. I went ahead and printed one off so it's a little bit better view. Yeah, there's a lot of good information in here. This is something that I would not take for granted. There's, for example, a portion that tells you exactly what the door, the MicroScan hub goes through during the programming process. It tells you step by step. So that's very useful. So let's get into the programming. Let me explain. This is your home screen. Now, when we go over to this camera here, this is our home screen. This is where you would be most of the time. Activation, obviously, I'm in my safety right now, but if I put an activation to it, yikes, you can see the activation. The activation was not allowed to take place. Now we're on the stall circuit because I was in the safety. So home screen, if we just push and release once, we see back and more, and we see that we have 3 dots. The black dot is the screen that we're on, screen number 1. This is our main screen, and we pick our door type single. If we go inside here, you have a single, a pair, dual egress, and then we go back, right? So detection zone A. Now the part of this, if you can go back to the other camera for a second, the part that is critical on this, let's see here. Jonathan, can you go back to the other camera real quick? My apologies. So the part that is critical here on this measurement is when you're putting the door detection zone, you're measuring from the edge of the door over to the LED. That's where you want to be. So if you measured this at 26 3/4 inches, you would drop the 3/4 inch, go down to 26, and then minus 1 inch to 25. That would be where you would set this 25 for this setting. So thank you, and let's go back over to the other camera. Okay, so now I won't do that to you again, I promise. Detection zone B would be if we had a second door. We don't. Guide rail right now, I don't have anything behind my door, so I'm not too worried about the guide rail, but I never set it on 0. If you set it on 0, essentially you're telling the system to not learn behind it. Always turn it on at least 1, and that will tell it to learn something behind it. If you have a guide rail, you would measure from the ground up. Say you had a 30-inch guide rail, and you go to 32, 31 to 32, right above the guide rail, and it turns the sensor off to that length. That's one of the beautiful things about lasers. You can do perfect things like that. So now if we go to the more screen, we go to monitoring, you can do, we have it off right now. And by the way, on the monitoring, this system by itself is a monitored system. Even if your door system does not have monitoring, this is a monitored system. So if you wanted a monitored system, this is a great system to have. You can, although on the purples and the blues, you can tie this in to your monitoring circuits, and you can monitor two different circuits. So that being said, we'll move on. Knowing act. Okay, so there's some significance behind this. I don't cover it too greatly, but on knowing act, it will turn off the approach side sensor. So as you guys may know or may not know, when you use a push button for knowing act, you cannot use a sensor that's mounted on the door to open the door. That has got to, once the door is open, that can reactivate it and stop the door in a stall function. And that's what this will do. It automatically turns, the activation goes off of the gray wires on the system harness only. Motion 1 and motion 2 do not work when you have knowing act on. Act hold time, this is from the time on the activation side, how long the sensor will maintain its relay once you exit it. I've got it set very quickly because this is my own door. Push and go, this will only work actually push. On the safety side, when you pull it, it's not going to work because it's got a safety sensor back there that'll see you. So not close time, this is for center hung doors. It's an allowance with, if you have center hung doors and you had air pressure and it's pushing the door, breaking the home switch. You can see my home switch here. I have this to illustrate. Use it, my home switch off. That gives me 10 seconds. Now what happens in that 10 seconds is if the door breaks because of air pressure, then it's going to give me 10 seconds to get back in the close read switch. If it doesn't, then it'll open the door, exhaust it, and close the door. If you wanted that not to happen, you could go to advanced safe. And when you turn that on, now instead of opening, the door will just sit there until the home switch is closed again. Act distance is the distance away from the door on the activation side. This is adjustable, and this is not, by the way, a feasible activation. It does, as the door opens, the pattern stays with the door. So when you're full open, the pattern is looking out here. It's no longer covering your 43 inches off the face of the door as ANSI standards require. So now on to monitoring logic. There's active high and active low. Most systems are active low. So we have safe distance. This is how many curtains are on the swing side of this door. So deep is all 4, medium is 2, and limited, I'm sorry, medium is 3 and limited is 2. I just turned on limited. I'm gonna have to do a learn, and that's fine. Because we had pretty much everything covered when we were through safe distance on medium. Now we have the only setting we had is traffic, normal, high. This would be when the sensor, when the door is opened and held open by a sensor, how long does the door hold open? Under 5 minutes, it will go into where it starts searching for the home switch. If the door holds open via the sensor. On high, it goes to 30 minutes, and on extreme, we're back. It goes to approximately an hour, and then it starts going into traffic. The traffic light just tracks it. So now we're going to go through a learn on this. If we could switch back to the other camera, I'm going to show you what a learn consists of. So the system, once you have this system, all these plugged in, again, you have to have, on my situation, I have the on-off hold open switch plugged into the on-off hold open. So you either have to have the red and black tied together or the on-off hold open and the on position. And we have our system harness landed. We definitely have our home switch here. The blue learn, when the blue learn blinks, that's simply telling you that you need to do a learn. It's saying something in its field changed and it needs to do a learn. That's all it's tracking. White is saying that it's tracked. That could be a loose arm. It could be that somebody muscled the door, but it basically turns on telling it, hey, I have to find my door. When it closes, sees the home switch, it'll satisfy itself and say, okay, I know where I'm at. That's the 0 angle. So to do a learn on this, after we've set up these parameters, you'll just push and hold 1, 2, 3, and it may give you a network symbol. Now we're going to kind of watch this go through this process here. So it will give you a network symbol as you see on the smaller screen. And then it'll give you a 15-second countdown. This is for you to get your ladder away, clear the area, and it's going to begin its learn here in a matter of seconds. Keep people away from the door while it goes through its learn, please. So the first thing you're going to see when it does is going to be a camera with the doors. That's taking a picture in the closed position. Okay. Then it's going to give you a doors open symbol, which you can see, and it actually opens the door for you. Once the door is completely open, it satisfies itself and takes a picture. Once the doors, it satisfies itself, it wants to reiterate everything that just happened and go in the close and check it all. You can see the door close symbol and the camera. Door closes, it saves. Now it's in the save status. Once you see the hourglass, it's completed with its learn, and you just have to wait for that hourglass a couple of seconds. So this is just simply storing all the information. And this is a learn. So you essentially have 2 screws on the swing side to mount the center, 1 hole that you have to drill through the door, 2 screws on the other side, run your cable up to your operator and plug it into your hub. You plug in all your other cables, you terminate. You will terminate anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 wires on your door control A. If you have dual control, an old system, you'll do that times 2. You have your on and off, hold up and switch. I've installed these in little as an hour and a half, and more intricate systems, a couple hours. It really is a simple system. And now one thing I wanted to touch on in this is a fire rated, UL listed for fire rated doors. This system can go onto a fire rated door. And we have the documentation. If you were going to present this for a hospital or for some application, fire rated doors, this is your sensor. Okay, this is an excellent sensor. I believe it's rated for up to 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken. That, in the nutshell, is a complete install of a MicroScan T1U, or not U. This doesn't have the power supply. But one little note on this that I did want to touch on. Where did my power supply go? If you do buy the power supply, as I mentioned before, the power supply simply plugs into the power. So it's kind of a nice add, and it actually will work. Isolate the power for this. It's designed for this. DC power only. The system is a DC power only system. Jake, do we have any questions?
We have one tech that actually left us a comment. He said the standoff block, so the spacer that comes with the kit to ignore a panic or bumper bars. He said that he couldn't figure out how to mount it without modifications.
Well, all I can speak to is that this has 4 holes, and it's actually on the template. If you look at the template, you will see 4 red holes on the template. These holes are the holes for the standoff. Once you mount this standoff, if you had an existing sensor and you needed to put this in its place, you would have to provide these 4 holes. I believe this comes with self-tappers. You just sink them into the door, and then you can just run your cable through here. It's all prepped for it. mount the cincher back on. You can see you have two holes here for the existing cincher holes for the screws. So you have 4 into your door, 2 for your cincher, your pass-through for your cable. It should be that easy. I've installed many of these, and usually if you're modifying, there's something wrong. There's something wrong because the cincher is designed to just basically come off the door, put the 4 screws in, pull your wire through, put the cincher right back on, and you should be good to go. The biggest call I've had on these, if, as I mentioned, the template aligns the cincher, you will get a height angle error if it's out of its angle that it desires. So all you have to do is adjust that angle, get your template out, adjust it. If you don't have a template, as I mentioned before, what this cincher wants to see, and let me give you kind of a close-up of this. What the cincher is looking for, it has a passage for, you can see this little bright spot right here. This is where the cable comes out. It sits right just like this. It wants that to be straight down to the door, hanging straight, not at an angle, not an angle going this way, not an angle going this way. It wants to go straight down to the floor. If you will simply align that and make sure that happens. The other thing is this does have a mounting height on it since it is a system. This has to be mounted at minimum of 75 inches. I believe it's up to 98 inches. So it's got quite a range, but a minimum of 75 inches. And that's from all measurements are going to be from the LED on the sensor. The other part of that is that you want to measure, when I mentioned you want to measure your door from the leading edge to the sensor, you want to do that on both sides. You have about a 1/2 inch of tolerance, maybe a little bit more, but you don't want to put one sensor here and one sensor back here. You want them to be pretty much back to back. The standoff should be that simple, though, as I mentioned. The caps, I know people have told me how tight they are. There is a trick to getting them off. You simply snap one side off and hold it with your thumb, snap the other side off and hold that. When you pull it up, you push it away. And that's pretty simple. The reason these are so tight is these are lasers. Lasers are perfect. We don't want loose things around lasers. And if you don't adhere to the screws, put the screws in tightly and firmly, and it jumbles, that's an enemy of lasers. I mean, everybody who installs anything on doors knows everything on a door needs to be tight because doors move. So it's really a kind of thing that should be done on not only the sensors, but the pivots and the operator and everything else. Any other questions?
No questions. I think you've hit everything pretty nicely.
Good. Well, I hope this has been beneficial. We at the technical group really appreciate all of our customers. We want to help you. If my biggest advice for anybody who's going to install the system is call us if you need anything. We'll absolutely support you and make sure that you have a plan to go out on your job so you feel comfortable and so you know what you're looking at. There's always some ins and outs with sophisticated products that we made this very, very simple for you. If you need any technical support, we're here for you. I really appreciate everybody who's attended, especially if there's any Allegiant guys out there. I know some of the Allegiant guys, Bo and some of the Allegiant guys were going to be here. So thank you. And you guys have a great day.